I would like to welcome all of you as well as our listeners and participants on this call. Before we start بس a few announcements and شوية disclaimers قبل لا نبدأ. أولا أحب أرحب أعضاء المشاركين في الميت اب today. معنا الأخت والزميلة نورة السرحان من SPC، الأخ والزميل دكتور مازن الزايدي من ميسا، الأخ والزميل قيس العيسى والكوليج من Vision Ventures، والأستاذ عمر المجدوعي from رائد Ventures as well as in his capacity as the Vice Chairman of the Saudi Venture Capital and Private Equity Association. With that, I would like you to join me in welcoming our panelists today. Just a quick announcement, a quick disclaimer. فكرنا كثيرا على موضوع انه whether we hold this session بالعربي او بالانجليزي. كان للتحبيذ انه يكون النقاش بالانجليزي نظرا ل رغبتنا في انه يكون مسموع وناس يستفيدوا منه whether كانوا يتكلموا عربي ولا ما يتكلمون عربي. فسامحونا إذا أي أحد كان على أمل إنه يكون اللقاء باللغة العربية، أو بس إذا أي أحد يحتاج translation ولا we will be making available إن شاء الله transcript of the conversation، وبإذن الله حنسوي لها ترجمة ونوضعها بإذن الله as a file attachment in the along with the link of the video once we upload it to YouTube. With that being said, I want to welcome everybody again from the listeners and the participants. So I want to pass the mic to Abu Ali, Ustad Umar al-Majdoui, Vice Chairman of the Venture Capital and Private Equity Association, to give us an opening remark and some thoughts and insights about the most recent report that was published by the association. Ustad Umar, the mic is yours.
Thank you so much, Mazen. Should I keep the video off because I can't switch it on? It's okay to keep it this way?
Up to you.
No, it's up to you, but it's okay.
أنا ما أعرف صراحة
because I can't switch it off. Yeah, it's okay. So thank you very much, Mazen, for this introduction, and thank you everybody for attending this meetup. So today we will talk about the report that the association, the Venture Capital and Private Equity Association, just issued last month. And just to give you some hints about the association, it's founded by Mishaat in 2018 and actively working in their mandate and its mandate less than a year ago. The main objectives of the association is to have create a policy advocacy with the governmental institutions. It creates also researches and reports like the one that we have talked today about. It has also mandate in raising the awareness through training, development, and conferences and meetups. It will help also developing standards for the industries and the VC and PE industries, and it will encourage partnerships with the ecosystem players. These are the main objectives of the association, and we are very happy that also the association is chaired by Mr. Abdulrahman Tarabzouri, and members of the board are really great people. Inshallah, you can see them in LinkedIn. The association until this point has about 50 members. They contribute about 12 billion of Saudi riyals in assets under management, and they also represent about 120 portfolio companies in their portfolios. So alhamdulillah, the association made great steps in the last 12 months, and led by Osama Ashri. He's the CEO. So we'll talk today about the report, and let's just give some insights about the report. So the report is part of the commitment of Saudi Venture Capital Association to provide transparent and credible information to the ecosystem for the VCPA industries. It's the second report about the Saudi venture deals, which will be issued in every quarter. So we will issue it every quarter, and you will see it there. We will add private equity activity starting from either the next quarter or the quarter after that. It's becoming now more and more active, the PE industry in Saudi Arabia, and need to be tracked and need to be also reported. We will also see there are some interesting things that we will see in the report, despite of a lot of global scene. So we will see that in the Saudi ecosystem, especially, we had about 300% increase from last year. So the Saudi venture capital firms invested about $67 million of investments in 16 startups. This is about 300% from the same period last year. And all of these deals went to the early stage seed, Series A, Series B, none to this point to Series C. But we anticipate that Series C will come soon, and that is a natural growth in the ecosystem. 92% of them are seed and Series A, so majority of them are concentrated at these stages. This is we will talk more about the report and the information that report in the panel, inshallah. And the association activities will be covered by Mr. Osama Ashri, maybe end of this, if there is a ceremony of signing or something like that. But before we move to the panel, I want to thank our main sponsor, Mushaad. They are the founders, and they are the main funders, and they are continuously supporting us in a very great manner. I want to thank our great partners, Jada, SVC, and Ministry of Investment, Aramco, Wide, Coast. All of those are really great supporters and great. We have a long list of thanks because I may forget people in this, but also to forget CA, Ministry of Commerce, for their support and collaborative activities with us and with the association in the last few months. I don't want to forget Jawla. Jawla was part of this report, and they were the main source of the information to the association. I want to thank Osama Ashri for his efforts. He worked very hard without really even enough funding at the beginning, and he made a great job to make the association works well. And I want to thank the chairman, the board members, and the association members. They are great people, and they will. And I want to thank at the end the attendees, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Abu Ali, for this. Without further ado, just conscious of the time, we'll move into the conversation that we are here for today. And I would like to start the question first of all by examining some of the data reported in the Q2 report. For example, if you look at the very first figure 1, showing the number of investment made by Saudi-based VCs is increased dramatically quarter over quarter. This is obviously the result of having these more fund managers with ample dry powder to deploy into the market. So and this is clearly evident of the government efforts that were aimed at solving this availability of growth capital problem that we've had in the past. Nora, can you spend like some time just discussing about what are the various programs that SBC has launched over the last several years, and what sort of early tractions have you been seeing in the ecosystem?
Sure, thank you, Mazen. So let me give a little bit of background about SBC. Saudi Venture Capital Company is a government venture capital established in 2018 as part of the private sector stimulus. It aims to develop the venture capital ecosystem in general in Saudi by investing around 2.8 billion Saudi riyals in the VC fund and co-investing along angel investors and institutional investors. Our main stimulate seed, early stage, and growth investment in innovative driven startup and fast and high growth potential. Our main principles are to balance the economic and financial success. We usually prioritize the local mandate and local investments. We're sector agnostic and we're gap oriented. Through our both programs in the past 2 years, we've committed to 14 fund managers with various vintage years ranging from 2018, 2019, and 2020. We've committed around 700 million Saudi riyals to those 14 fund managers. And through our co-investment program, we've invested in 33 deals with around 114 million Saudi riyals. Through those two programs in the past 2 years, we saw great growth in the applications to both programs, the co-investment and the investment in funds. But we emphasize on our selection criteria. On the co-investment program, we only invest in Saudi-based deals. And that means the headquarters and the main operation has to be in Saudi. From that co-investment programs, we've witnessed 2 deals that moved from outside the kingdom and moved their headquarters to Saudi. Hyperpay and Golden Cent both moved their headquarters, their main operation, and their C-level to Saudi through the co-investment program. As for the 14 fund managers we invested in, they all submit an ecosystem development plan, i.e. they train interns and they hire Saudi nationals to transfer the knowledge. So those 14 fund managers ranges from global fund managers with track record, regional fund managers, and some local fund managers who some of them are first-time GPs.
Thank you so much, Noura. And since we're in the topic, I want to take maybe a few minutes also to add a little bit about Jada and Jada's mandate. As most of you are familiar with, we're already partners with most of the people with us on the call. Ultimately, Jada was created exactly around and established around 2 years ago to be that go-to anchor investor that would take early risk with emerging managers and to help support the growth of this ecosystem. As over the last 2 years, we've invested in about close of, as you know, Noura, there is a bit of overlap between of the funds that we've invested in, the funds that you've invested in as well. And this is just a general message for any fund manager in the region who is eyeing and acknowledging the potential that the Saudi ecosystem has to offer. There are anchor investors by way of us as well as SBC looking for fund managers who can help us deliver on our mandate. So wherever you are, if you are interested in investing in Saudi startups, please let us know. We will put a link that could give you all the information and all the access to both us SBC. Yeah, that's ultimately it in a nutshell. Without any further ado, I want to move a little bit to figure 2 of the report, which shows us that the volume of investments in Saudi startup quadrupled. I would like us to discuss this phenomenal growth and what could be the main drivers behind this tremendous growth. I would love to hear the thoughts of first our practitioners, Ustad Omar, Ustad Qais, and then please interject Dr. Mazen or Noura by any insight that you think will add color to the story.
طيب السلام عليكم يعطيكم العافية جميعا. Let me just jump before Abu Ali if he allows. So I think there are several factors. MashaAllah, as you said, the growth is phenomenal. As a fact, by the way, the first half of 2020 already surpassed all of 2019 investments. So this is also another phenomenal number, which tells us by the end of 2020 there will be also definitely good growth. Now there are many reasons, of course, for that happening, and I think there are 3-4 main factors that are driving this. I think always investments look for opportunities. Any investor, any sophisticated investor looks for good deals, and I think that's the first pillar. So the first pillar, I believe, is that investments and actual deals in Saudi Arabia are improving much more than before, whether in terms of number of deals or in terms of the quality of those deals, represented, of course, secondly, by the talent running those companies. So I think these are 2 important pillars. So the companies themselves are getting better. The founders, of course, that are creating those companies are being more sophisticated, alhamdulillah. Experiences, and of course, definitely the government push, the government funds, whether represented by the Public Investment Fund in Jada, the funds, or in the Saudi capital SVC as another fund of funds. Of course, both gave huge push for the market. I think these are 3 very important factors that helped accelerate really the number of deals and the amount of money invested in Saudi Arabia, which we all hope that will add to the overall ecosystem, inshallah, in Saudi, and improve that to become a much better, inshallah, opportunity in the future for us and for international and regional investors as well, so that our startups and our companies can really be leaders in their sectors, inshallah.
Thank you, Qais. Ustad Omar?
So much. Yes, so I agree 100% with Qais, and what really if we can put a sequence of things in a more logical way, I think without entrepreneurs, without having people who are taking risk and leaving their jobs or putting all of their efforts in new and innovative ideas to test them and to try to change the way that the industry works, I think no one of us will talk about these things here in the beginning. So I think first of thing, entrepreneurs are thinking of great ideas, big ideas. They start very small. They're trying their best to fight the hustle, to fight the challenges, and they find next step as investors who will look at these opportunities from the right angle. And what do I mean by right angle? Means that the angle of creating value for the longer term rather than trying to harvest this value early on. And this type of investors, alhamdulillah, before maybe we didn't really have enough of those investors, but alhamdulillah these days we have plenty of them who understand how to create value for the medium and longer term, how to make sure that the founders are well supported the right way, and how to also keep them, the founders interested in their companies without really diluting them early on. With those two in the ground, I think the governmental money, the development money, comes and scale this in a faster and better way. I think this is how the developmental money came to the market and really created great value in the last two years. And this is something that I say it in front of you here in this, and also behind you. I think the way that the Jada and SPC came to the market with very high level of awareness in how to not create a bubble is something that I really appreciate and really value a lot from you, Jada and SPC, because you didn't come and rushed to put your money in everywhere in the market to make sure that you can deploy as fast as possible. But no, you came and you put rules in the market, and those rules are really very best practices in US and the more mature markets. And this is where I think the learning curve were much faster than what we thought it will be. So three factors: entrepreneurs are there, alhamdulillah, and they are leaving their jobs. They're leaving their very high-level jobs and creating their risky startups. There are investors who will take risk with them and look to the opportunity for the longer term. And there are developmental money who are also aware about how to create value for those guys, both entrepreneurs and investors, without really creating a bubble. I think all of these three things will create, inshallah, ARC is creating already great momentum, but will create even much bigger momentum in the near future.
Thank you, Ustad Omar, for mentioning this and the kind words. I think it is the ecosystem is a fabric, and each string supports the one next to it. I think the idea of us coming in and doing this in a very responsible manner, similarly to our colleagues at SVC, we acknowledge and understand that the market looks at us in sort of a leadership way, and we acknowledge that this is a great responsibility that we take very, very seriously, because we understand that there will be people who will be sort of building on our judgments on a lot of cases, as well as doing their own due diligence, but having that anchor investor is always essential in helping propel the fundraising efforts of a lot of these fund managers, and us doing our homework to the utmost level of proficiency is the responsibility that we take very seriously. Therefore, Dr. Mazen, is there anything that you would like to add from just any sort of trends on the growth of funding of innovation and startups in the kingdom?
Definitely. I'm just echoing what my colleagues have mentioned. I think based on how we see it is that we have capital that exists. I mean, Jada with SVC accounts for around 1.7 billion. When you match fund that with private, it reaches $3.5 billion, which is a huge amount to be invested in startups. Opportunities are limitless, how we see it. The government through the Vision 2030 has supported the private sector to be able to seize many of these opportunities across different sectors, unlocking new sectors as well. Regulations have been enhancing in the last couple of years, which usually is in the favor of the private sector, supporting them, giving them all the type of legal frameworks and presence to extent that supports them. And above all of that, of course, we have the human capital, and I'm not just talking about Saudi, but also in the region. We believe that we have very talented entrepreneurs across the region in Saudi. We believe Saudi is a large market. We've seen in the last couple of years, so MISA was able to attract since 2018 more than 350 startups in Saudi. Just in that first half of 2019, we've attracted 90 startups. VCs have been more interested in the region based on the huge potential of the market. We have an initiative called Venture Wave, where we've have this partnership with venture capital firms, local, regional, international. We have more than 50. 15 of these VCs have already obtained their license, opening offices in Saudi. Of course, this would have not been possible without the development of the ecosystem. Every player within the ecosystem was playing a very crucial role to combine all of this and elevate this ecosystem. And definitely we see a very bright future for the entrepreneurs in the market, and also for VCs, hopefully making more and more returns as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mazen. Nora, would you care to elaborate a little bit on Ustad Omar's comment around doing this in a responsible manner and preventing a bubble?
Definitely. And if Mazen, if you allow me to take a moment and talk also about how the kingdom started by building the infrastructure. And I mean, we started by forming the VCPA association that will act as an advocate for this ecosystem. We also started by working on the PEVC regulations with all the private sector players and the government agencies. So we had Ministry of Commerce working on the capital, on the companies law. We working on the funds regulations in collaboration with SAGIA at that time, which is the Ministry of Investment now, and Munshaat. So we've worked on building the infrastructure at the beginning. And then thankfully, we had the players from the investors, the likes of Vision, Ra'id, STV, and so many other names. And as Abu Ali mentioned, also the entrepreneurs got so excited after seeing those reforms take place. The investors are more being attracted to Saudi-based deals. And as well as you mentioned, being very careful in selecting those investors and being very careful in allocating this money. So as we mentioned, maybe Jada and SBC would anchor some of these funds, but we cap it at 65%. And we actually rarely reach the 65%. So our investment from the government is capped to 65%. So those fund managers have to attract private capital as well and build the case that these investments are commercially driven and will actually have multiples in illiquid alternative investments. So we've seen also movement from the family offices. We've seen family offices being interested to invest in this illiquid asset class as well. So it's the whole ecosystem awareness level has been raised, and you see more players coming. Us working on this for the past 3-4 years, I believe we're surprised that we've reached this level. We're currently living the dream, like the dream for VC investors, the dream for entrepreneurs and startups. And I think the acceleration of reforms, the transformation, acceleration of technology, the fast adoption of technology, and the acceleration of youth took like a role in this movement.
Thank you so much for that, Nora. I think I couldn't agree with you more. We are living the dream. We are in a much better place than we were 3-4 years ago. So thanks to every player who contributed to that success in the ecosystem across the board. I want to shift the dialogue a little bit to talk about the competitiveness or competitive level of Saudi founders and Saudi startups on the global scale. We've heard some few stories about offshore fund managers showing a great deal of enthusiasm and excitement about certain Saudi startups. Ustad Omar, Ustad Qais, do you care to give us a few examples of transactions that you are engaged with global fund managers that are attracted by the Saudi ecosystem?
طيب, thank you, Qais, Abu Abdullah. So yes, this is very noticeable, especially in. So we noticed that many of the fund managers regionally started to talk to the startups in the ecosystem, and this was in 2018, 2019, much more obvious. But this year we saw transactions, and heavy transactions means transactions with bigger tickets. We can't disclose, of course, the specific deals or specific amounts because this is not it's confidential. But it looks like that it's a momentum. So whenever we see that 2018 was about some investors were talking, 2019 they were seriously talking and want to close, and 2020 we see also some deals that already been closed by regional and global investors. This is something that you can say that it's a momentum. And the good thing is that now some of our portfolio companies are contacted by big and seasoned VCs from Silicon Valley, which is something that first time I see it in Saudi Arabia. Which also emphasizes that this is something that we can call it a trend. So this is from one angle that investors are now seriously looking at Saudi entrepreneurs and Saudi startups. Part of it is also the advocacy of Jada and the SPC toward investing in Saudi Arabia, and the other part, of course, is that entrepreneurs are really creating great value and world-class startups. One other example that may be specific, I will be more specific in this example, is Noon Academy, for example. So I know Abdulaziz and Mohammed Al-Dhar'an, Abdulaziz Said and Mohammed Al-Dhar'an since 2016. And I know how they emerged from becoming a local, a small-scale startup to become a regional and now hopefully global startup. The emergence, so this evolution came not only from the startup, but in their mindsets. And they are really great in terms example for Saudi entrepreneurs who learned the game and learned how to really create the proper mindset for their startup to scale fast and to also attract top talents globally. And now, when I say globally, because they are hiring now really global scale talents. So those are the two examples that I can see that from within the Saudi Arabia, there is a real evolution of the mindset of startup founders, and from the global scene and regional scene, I see that this evolution is being appreciated and now attracting also more and more money to those startups.
Thank you, Bala.
Yeah, so I'll take a different angle. Maybe definitely what Abu Ali said is true, and I agree with everything he said. However, I think another factor which is very important is probably this year COVID. So COVID-19 surprisingly gave a boost to technology in general. So one of the problems I think in Saudi and in the whole Middle East region was the gap in technology adoption and technology transformation across the region. So you would have a very small or relatively small, let's say, user base, and growth in those user bases would be not very attractive to international investors and players. What we've seen, at least in COVID, is a huge boost to technology transformation. At least our experience is most of our portfolio companies grew by multiple folds. Some grew by 10, 20% or 10, 20x or 10, 20 times. So definitely the technology gap has shrunk tremendously. Definitely technology adoption has grew in the last in the COVID time, let's say from March to June, July. In those 3 to 4 months, what could have been done in the next 3 to 5 years, for sure. And this is great news for the whole ecosystem. And as a result, definitely many companies in the region are reaping the rewards of that change, and therefore are becoming much more attractive and are able now to show the numbers and are able to show that growth that international investors seek. They want to see bigger market share. They want to be bigger market size. And I think those are all now becoming more real for us in the region. So that's another probably aspect, but definitely we're seeing the same Abu Ali just mentioned. We're seeing a lot more interest from investors around the world, whether it's the US, Europe. And that's of course great news for us, because definitely additional sophisticated investors will add value to those startups and will take them probably to other levels or other markets that they have not been thinking about. And I think that's also great for the whole industry.
Thank you, Abu Abdullah. And I have to confess, because I was a skeptic about a few offerings, whether it is by way of grocery, online shopping. I never thought in my life that I will order groceries online. I like the idea of going and touching the product before I actually buy it. That actually has changed. COVID did change me. I am now of the school of thought that I definitely rather do grocery shoppings off the screen of my laptop, at least for the things that I order on a frequent basis. So that behavior shift happened with me personally. My wife also, our daughter had a slight fever during the midst of the lockdown of COVID, and we were of course terrified whether it is COVID, although she didn't mix with any other children. We did engage through Al Habib Hospital through a telemedicine offering and saw a doctor. Ultimately, the doctor asked us to open her mouth. We found out that some of her molars were actually coming out, so that was the reason behind her fever. So we are both converted from grocery shopping online as well as telemedicine. So I expect us to actually continue this behavior. This is not something that was just unique to the case of COVID. So seconding that thought that COVID did give a lot of these technology platforms and allowed them to reach new heights and get customers to actually try out their business models, did contribute a great deal to the success of a lot of our technology companies, especially based here in Saudi. I would want to reflect a little bit on the sophistication level of Saudi founders. If you want to shed some light from a practitioner's point of view, where do you see the Saudi founders today compared to how they were 3 to 5 years ago, either by it in the way that they actually run the day-to-day operations of their business, in the way they actually structure earlier rounds? And my next question will be around the seed and pre-seed rounds and how important these rounds are in terms of achieving the growth potential of a startup. So if you can spend like 5 minutes each on just talking a little bit about the sophistication level of Saudi founders compared to 3 to 5 years ago.
By the way, this time also we want to hear from Noura, because they have matching program and they meet.
Yes, absolutely.
Startup. I'm not sure if it's still active, but I'm sure that you met already hundreds of founders, and you can also give us some insights about that. But definitely, as I mentioned before, that for example, I give you an example of Noor Academy founders, but definitely there are plenty of them. And also I can give another example of Salman Al-Haibani, Morni. The guy has a great vision. So when I met him in 2015, and his vision was to disrupt how insurance salvage and how accident management can happen and how to make the roads safer. It's something that really struck me at that point. But if you see him now, of course, nobody hear about Morni these days because they're working in the back end and the B2B side, and it's not really active in the front side. But actually, they are one of the great examples that we may need to have a spotlight on their change. So the the way that they changed, for example, the accident management is something that globally you can't see it, but in Saudi Arabia at this point. And I'm very comfortable to say it because what they did is something innovative. It's 5 years of hard work and hustle. And now I'm sure that we will be proud, all of us, to see a pilot, a full example of how accident is managed through Morni platform or through Morni technology, not necessarily only Morni platform. And this is something interesting because almost all of the insurance companies are now embracing this, and they are coming to Morni platform to start creating subscriptions and also selling their salvage cars or salvage cars, accidents, to make sure that they can create much better value than before. And it's really proven and it's really working very well. This is another example. I can give you a lot of examples. So that's, and one of the major elements of this happened is Careem exit. So Careem created a great, Careem founders created a great company. It's not really about money here. It's about the ripple of that of this exit, and we see these days more and more of former executives and former key employees of Careem from Saudi Arabia and from the region to come and establish their own startups. And those guys comes with great mind in terms of how to scale, how to make sense of money, how to really stay lean, yeah, how to be agile, and when this happened and when that happened. This sort of knowledge is well accelerated within the Careem environment and ecosystem. That really created also great chance for many of those founders for those employees to create their own companies and also to find money in front of them whenever they think of that, which is a great also example of quality shift in the mindset of Saudi founders. I will leave the also mic to Qais.
شكرا.
So, thank you, Bari. So, of course, talent is a global problem. It's not something that we can, snap a finger and it will be solved in Saudi. It has to go through maturity after maturity phases, and it only happens by, as we said earlier, by brave entrepreneurs who take leaps of faith and start their own businesses and go from one dream to another. And I think again, definitely bigger startups in the region that have achieved phenomenal growth and phenomenal exits, like Careem and others, are the ones that are being the let's say, we could say, like the factories or the places where those entrepreneurs can get trained, get more awareness of how to grow and how to build those great companies. But just shedding some light on some local also or Saudi startups that are doing, mashallah, very very well, and have also themselves grown as people, as founders. They have changed over time in amazing ways. So, for example, Sella, founders like Salman Butt and Nawaf Hariri amazingly grow a company from a very tiny start that they had into today, being sort of the Shopify of Saudi and inshallah the region. So they are becoming the e-commerce platform for the region. Another company, great, the chefs, mashallah, Shabab Abdurrahman Shabanat, Abdurrahman Marshid, have done, mashallah, amazing job and have also grown. And again, this is important, how they grow and how they, grow as people, as their own capabilities, their own understanding of the market. How to maneuver in the market is also amazing. The chefs, for example, grew like 20x during COVID time in terms of their capacity and their customer base and their overall GMV. She went from being usually things were normal until complete shutdown during COVID, and the phenomenal comeback, after COVID also finished and things were opened up again, and her getting the license, or the first license of its kind in probably Saudi and the region, I believe, was phenomenal. So she didn't take, for example, Latifa didn't take COVID shutdown time sitting in the office. So they were preparing for what's coming after COVID. How do we, act after the closure is opened up and after people come back? What's going to happen in the region? And again, the support also that she got from Ministry of Tourism and others, mashallah, is also amazing. So again, these are just, as Abu Ali said, simple examples, few examples of some successful companies being able to maneuver through the past few years and through COVID situation and achieve, mashallah, growth, only because their understanding as people has really improved, over time. So talent takes time to really grow, but inshallah, we're getting there, and definitely there's huge improvement over the past few years.
Thank you so much. My next question is around the seed and pre-seed stage, and how critical and important. I personally know of a few deals that were uninvestable because of the earlier rounds that the founders agreed to. So can you just shed some light on whether by an anonymous example or even in general, how important it is that how the terms are set in the pre-seed and seed? We can talk through with Noura about this as part of their experience with the matching program, as well as Qais and Umar from a practitioner's point of view. How do you see the importance of that, and if there is anything that we could do to improve this situation?
Sure, Mazen, if I may start. So at SVC, we look at the early stage and we believe there is a gap there. And that's why we have our co-investment program. So one of our co-investment programs is the angel co-investment. Through the angel co-investment, we invest with angel investors in seed stage deals. We've witnessed great growth with the number of angel investors and the angel investor platforms. So we used to co-match only angels from Uqal, and now we've seen Falak Angels coming up as another platform, Women's Park as well, and Riyadh Angels. So the number of platforms for angel investors is growing, and also the number of angels and the level of sophistication of angels is also growing. And they play a crucial role at that stage. And then the VC will come and invest. We have another program for institutional co-investments. And the other program is mainly a gap-oriented program. Once we see a gap, we would invest in. And just to answer your previous question and allude to it as well, I believe numbers will speak better than just giving examples. In Magnet's report for the first half about Saudi VC ecosystem, you see 5 deals in the B rounds, and they've secured huge amount of funding that reaches to $36 million. You see Jahez, you see Nana, you see Noon Academy, and Sari as well. So this shows you the increased level of sophistication for the founders, the investors as well. And all those deals had early on angel investors investing in them, early on seed investor investing in them, and now we see them growing to Series B level.
Thank you, Nora. Abu Ali, Abu Abdullah, anything to add?
طيب. Yes. So yes, I think what Nora said is really very accurate. And from our side, for example, because we started in 2015, and initially we targeted Saudi market, and at that point it was super hard to find Saudi founders who really can understand scale and can understand growth. And that was a great challenge. And even in some startups that we see that there are some hope, we go to the cap table and see that it's very, very bad to vote for this company to grow with this cap table, given that usually startups take between 5 to 6 or 7 rounds ahead until they hit the exit. So you need, whenever you want to invest, you need enough interest for the founders to fight all over this period, and this can't happen by having 20 or 30% of the company in the seed round. So this is what was the scene in Saudi Arabia. It took us some very hard negotiations with some of the investors for some deals, not for all of the deals, to bring their interest down to 20%. And thankfully that many of the investors understand the concept, understand the give now to take later, and this is where I think some investors, some founders really found it very appreciative from our side, from ourselves, and from our vision, and from many of the early investors in the VC area. So this was one of the biggest problems in the early stage in 2015, 2016. But as Noura said, when we start seeing more and more sophisticated angels, we saw that this problem is not there anymore. And this was clear in 2018, 16, 19. No, I never saw a company that I am interested in to see and to dig deeper, and at the same time found it very bad in terms of cap table distribution. This is a very fast learning curve. I can see that between 16 and 18, you see that this is not really a problem anymore. It's something remarkable, actually. And number two is which is, I think, a much more important point, is the mindset of growth, mindset of creating value for the medium and longer term. This is something that wasn't really there. And whenever someone is selling something, they think that they can sell and become profitable next week. And this is something that, if you build a building, you need a J curve to get your money back from that building. And this is a very simple equation, that you need to invest, and the bigger the investment you want, the better the prospects in the future. But that should be in something valuable, something that can create money from the model point of view, from the model perspective. And if the model works, and if the unit economics are healthy, then we need to scale these unit economics as much as we can and as fast as we can before we start harvesting in terms of exit, or in terms of listing, or in terms of distributing profit. So these are the two things that I saw it dramatically changed from 2015-16 until 2019-18-19, and of course 2020 is history. Everything from those things are history, alhamdulillah. Any founder that we meet these days, we know that he knows and he understands what he's talking about. He knows what unit economics means. He knows how the cap table should be managed, and he or she, of course, and he or she knows how to really distinguish between investors stage-wise. And this is where I think the remarkable change happened to the ecosystem in Saudi Arabia.
Thank you, Bali. Abdullah, anything to add?
Yeah, just a quick notes. Definitely agree with Noura and Abu Ali. The point, I think it's again, it's a learning curve for the region. So it's a learning curve for angel investors, and it's a learning curve for early stage entrepreneurs that are setting their startups or starting their startups for the first time. Definitely, we're seeing the same trend. So a lot more companies are being structured well in the beginning, and we're seeing a lot less companies that are non-investable. What do we mean by non-investable? I think one of the main points is not selling too much of your company in the beginning, in the first round. So you're raising, let's say, I don't know, X amount of money as your first round, and you end up selling 50%. So this is a disaster. This is a problem. So we see sometimes, by the way, we saw 60, we saw 70% sold by the company. And these are not right, not correct numbers, let's say, regardless of the situation. So you need to be clever of how to structure that properly. And I think entrepreneurs, we're seeing, so for example, one of the things, we advise is to try as much as possible to sell around 20% of your company, or even less if you can. Now, of course, there are many metrics that play into those figures. We're not going to go into them now, but we're seeing less of those issues and less of those problems. And because we are early stage investors, the ones that we see that have problems, and we think that this company is great, the founders are amazing, but they made this mistake in the beginning. They didn't know what they were doing, and they did that. So we help them to restructure that cap table in a way that makes it attractive. Now, of course, this is a difficult discussion, a difficult negotiation, because it involves early stage investors that have put their money and their faith in the company at an early stage, and now we're coming to change those figures. So it doesn't always pan out successfully, but alhamdulillah, in many cases we've been able to explain how it should be done and why we are doing it. And I think, again, as echoed earlier by Abu Ali, if everybody is in the thinking of this company's future and where it should be going, I think it's the best interest of everybody. Definitely, angel investment has grown in Saudi and in the region, and I think this is very important. We want to see more angel investors. We want to see more sophisticated angel investors who know what they are doing, and I think this is very important, really, for the whole ecosystem. So I've seen personally this grow really nicely in the past couple of years. Alhamdulillah. So I think we're moving in the right direction. Less of those cap table problems, less of those non-investable companies. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you so much, everyone. That's very insightful, and I urge any founder who's raising a seed or a pre-seed round to talk to a late-stage investor if they get access to someone who can, be sort of a mentor on how they, what sort of stake they should be giving up this early on. Just get as much advice as you possibly can on how you structure your early checks. Moving on, I'm sorry, I'm conscious of time, so I'm gonna skip one of the questions, and we'll see if we can get to it later on. But
we need to hear Mazen Zadi.
Yes, this is what I'm moving to Dr. Mazen's section. His heavy section is coming up right now. So after looking inwards for the past hour, I want to focus the discussion now to look a little bit outwards and then discuss how competitive is Saudi in attracting regional startup headquarters, both from a regulatory point of view and from just the general quality of life standpoint. If Dr. Mazen wanna start us off, and then we'd love to hear some reflections from Qais, Umar, and Noura.
Sure, Mazen. So let me answer this from a different angle. One thing is that during the COVID-19, we've noticed that startups that have good presence in Saudi, so we're talking about regional startups or international startups that has some presence in Saudi during the lockdown, were able to take advantage of, let's say, the opportunity to serve the local society through different, across different sectors. Many have reached out to us from outside Saudi, wanting to have the opportunity to come into Saudi or to be able to enable some of the businesses. But of course, at that time, all around the world, across the world, it was a bit difficult. What we've noticed in the last 2.5 years, since we started giving a lot of focus for startups to be able to set up and scale into Saudi, is that startups that have presence and strong base in Saudi are able to scale and localize some of their technology, etc. Definitely, Saudi is a large market, requires a lot of attention. Some startups and entrepreneurs understand that from the beginning, so they choose to be based in Saudi in one way or another, to take advantage of the different kind of, let's say, support that the government is offering. And as I mentioned before, opportunities are limitless. We always tell startups to try to focus, because when they come and they see the different opportunities, sometimes they get scattered everywhere, and that's based on the large market that's available in Saudi. One thing I want to reach or touch on is that usually when we talk about local startups or Saudi startups, it's any company that comes and sets up in Saudi and obtains what we call entrepreneurship license, they get a commercial registration, they're a Saudi company. Whether their main base was in Dubai or was in Shanghai or anywhere else, they're accounted as local companies. Most of these companies would make sure that this local entity would be tied to the mother company, whether it's in any jurisdiction, whether it came in PVI, ADGM, etc. But it's dealt as a local company, so they get all the let's say the opportunities that local entrepreneurs also have. I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning, that more than 170 startups in the region that were able to set up in Saudi through the entrepreneurship license were able to raise funds. And we understand this is that if you're going to a VC and you want to raise whether a seed or A, especially or specifically, you would have to justify the amount of investment, and the best justification that usually, or expansion plan that usually startups would have, is to scaling into Saudi. And we've seen that a lot. We've seen it across a lot of companies. However, based on our insights, is that if you don't localize, you still would face either some issues into scaling faster and to be able to access all the opportunities. So we're encouraging a lot of VCs to guide their startups into having a very strong base in Saudi. We have a lot of, if I can mention, successful stories, especially with Jordan. So Jordan, I remember last year, the top 5 companies that raised investments, they obtained a license, they set up their CR and their companies in Saudi, they raised more funds and they scaled into to the Saudi market. So adding to that, also touching at one of the questions that were asked earlier about venture capital or foreign venture capital or cross-border venture capital, and we've seen that there's a lot of interest nowadays in investing cross-border, whether from Silicon Valley or from China or anywhere else, into the Saudi market. We believe that Saudi has the let's say the largest opportunity for any startup, which is becoming a unicorn. All of us know that there is only one unicorn in the region, which is Kareem, that was acquired by Uber. We believe that there's going to be a wave of unicorns, thanks to Abu Ali and Bais and others that are investing and empowering these entrepreneurs. So even when we talked with VCs 3 years ago, they would always say that there's not enough deal flow, the market is not that big. But with all the changes and how it became very connected, and we've seen, for example, like Noon Academy, they're expanding in Pakistan, India, Egypt. it's proven through also the acquisition of Uber. So it's happening. It is there, and definitely we believe that there's huge opportunities for seed, pre-seed as well, in being able to localize in Saudi. I've answered lots of the questions that we're talking about entering Saudi, or how could they be able to set up in Saudi, which is it would be crazy sometimes that people will not believe that you can do it online in 3 hours. You can get your license and it costs you $500. So it's getting access to the largest market in MENA. So definitely, hopefully, we will see more attention and then entering into Saudi, especially cross-border venture capital investing in Saudi in the region.
Thank you, Dr. Mazen. Abu Ali, Abu Abdullah, any other further thoughts, or Noura at that?
Let me jump. So I echo, of course, Dr. Mazen's comments. There are a couple of things we need to really highlight here. And I think Dr. Mazen and his team have done amazing work, mashallah, over the past few years. And I myself was skeptical in the beginning. What are these guys doing? Are they really going to do what they are saying? But frankly, from experience, they have really delivered amazingly بصراحة. And many of our foreign or startups that are not set up in Saudi have moved to Saudi. Some are doing, whether branch offices or operations in Saudi. And, Sagia or now Misa have been phenomenal in their support and easing that logistical, or let's say governmental requirement to be set up in Saudi. It has been amazingly easy, mashallah, tabarakallah. And I think this is going to really even improve, Dr. Mazen, if I'm just jumping on you شوية. But what they are doing is amazing. صراحة setup, nobody believes that it can be done so fast and so easy online. Even before COVID, this is not something new during COVID. It has been there before COVID. So this has been amazing. Today, and I think this is important to reflect on your question, Mazen. Again, people or startups, and even, by the way, investors. I know already some international investors are already set up in Riyadh with offices in Saudi. So this is, again, amazing, and Misa has a big part to play in this. But even if, when we talk to other startups, when we talk to other, players in the region, many of them are talking about Saudi Arabia today as the place to go. They are not anymore talking about Saudi as a secondary place to go. Do we expand or do we not expand to Saudi? No, it has become a major place to be. It has become, for startups in the Middle East, the place to be. I would love to say the hub, inshallah, of the whole region. And I think the Saudi, mashallah, has that potential. We have huge consumer base in terms of that is youth, that's tech savvy. We have an economy that's, alhamdulillah, thriving even through COVID. So overall, I think Saudi is well positioned to be the next hub, inshallah, in the region for an upcoming, inshallah, boost of the whole region's economy.
Thank you, Abdullah.
Yeah, so just to add to Qais Abu Abdullah, صراحة, if we can say that the first governmental entity that got the idea of VC and startups, the earliest one to get the idea is Sagia back then, and now it's Ministry of Investment. I think that was, as Qais said, exactly. It was surprising. It was something like, wow, this is are you serious? Because VC asset class and entrepreneurship, in terms of tech entrepreneurship industry, is not a local thing and can't be local anywhere in the world. It's something that scale, and whenever you say scale, that means that you need to make the borders easier for them to go in or out. And this is what Sagi had back then, and Misa got the idea and created something phenomenal in my opinion, because before the mindset of the government was to look at the idea from the risk point of view, from the risk perspective, and that was nobody can say something, but unfortunately many of them couldn't really see the opportunity that we are losing at the same time. And alhamdulillah, within the last 3 years, I think now Saudi Arabia is natural expansion and natural. Sometimes not, we can't say it. And this point, it's a competitive inception point. We need to work in many things to make it an inception point for entrepreneurs to think about it as a starting point for them. It's still, we need to work. If we can say that we are 60% and we need to work in the next 40, I think that will be fair enough for us to say that we need to work on many things to make sure that we can be a hub. But as Qais said, we have the right seeds of the rainforest to create the rainforest of a hub. And whenever we say that, we mean that we have the market, we have the market size, we have the huge amount of youth who are tech savvy. We have, alhamdulillah, very good household income, and we have, alhamdulillah, a progressive government. Now we can see that almost every entity, a governmental entity, are thinking of startups and how to empower them, how to make sure that there is a regulatory support to those innovators. This is a momentum, and if we keep this momentum for the next 3 to 5 years, I can assure that we can be a hub. And we want to see more surprises from Ministry of Investment. I'm sure that they have plenty of them in their pockets, yani, mashallah.
Thank you, Abu Ali. Noura, anything to add?
Yes, I agree with Umar that we are halfway there to become maybe the hub for the startups and the VCs in the region. But to be honest, Saudi is the largest market, and any successful, ambitious startup should have Saudi as target in order for them to scale. As Abu Ali mentioned, we're not there at the inception point, but we do have grassroots, local talent and local startups that are scaling and actually scaling outside of the kingdom. I believe the government is aggressively transformational, and we've been transforming the reforms, we've been transforming the ecosystem, the infrastructure, and it's a work in progress. We believe the coming year will be the year for starting inception in Saudi for the startups and for the VCs, inshallah.
Thank you, Noura. And just to wrap up this thought with some thoughts from my end, I've always thought of Saudi as the perfect beachhead for any startup founder wishing to perfect their craft with, being close to his market, being close to his customers. I think this was very evident by Dr. Mazen's comment on how the founders that were present in Saudi were able to maneuver better than those who were servicing the Saudi market at arm's length. Qais also mentioned something along the same line, and we really believe that being also the example of Murni, for example, that Umar mentioned, the founder has pivoted quite a few times, and had he been based in Dubai or based in Egypt or Jordan or anywhere in the peripheral, he wouldn't have been this close to his customers to enable him to actually pivot and understand the market and understand the dynamics that are driving the value that he wishes to deliver. So yeah, I'm very hopeful as well, and part of it is me being wishful thinking, and part of it believing in what we are doing. But my last question that I would like to just throw out before we open up, seeing a mass migration of startups trying to set up their headquarters in the kingdom. How do you think this will impact the Saudi talent pool from a competitiveness point of view, from a development point of view? We can start with whomever start. No order necessary.
Maybe I didn't get the question.
So my question was, if we end up seeing this prophecy fulfill itself by having Saudi become the hub for innovation, and given that it's a substantial market that will enable founders and fund managers to be close to their customers, and in order for them to better serve them and understand their needs better, and in order for them to pivot and perfect their craft, so to speak, before expanding regionally or geographically. So if we end up seeing a lot of regional startups choosing to relocate their headquarters to Saudi, what do you think that will have in terms of an impact on the Saudi talent pool, on the development of the Saudi talent pool?
Mazen, I may start on this question. So from demographic perspective, we have a high percentage of youth in the kingdom. They're tech savvy, they're the new generation that help accelerate digitalization and adopt digitalization. So even before this movement happened, I believe there is a huge growth in the perspective of the new generation when it comes to startups and when it comes to founding and taking their ideas and materializing these ideas and becoming startups in the region. One example, we have Lean, the fintech solution company that it's a Saudi-based company with Saudi founder or co-founder who in their first round attracted global investors. So currently we're witnessing that change and growth. But I believe, as you mentioned, if Saudi becomes the hub and the inception of those startups will happen in ground in Saudi, and the migration will happen as well from other countries, the tech savvy population will help accelerate that growth.
Thank you, Noura. Dr. Mazen, Qais, Abu Ali.
Do you want to go, Abu Ali? It's
as you wish, Allah. Khalas, you pushed me. So yes, what Noura said is very interesting, and this is really a very attractive point to keep Saudi as an inception point for regional and global entrepreneurs. I think what the Ministry of Investment did in the last 3 years, I think it created a good, let's say, a good start for us to think about how to keep this momentum. The point here is that it's not, so let's not really focus in how to create inception point by creating incentives. I think there are much more fundamentals than that. So, for example, quality of life is very important. Ease of conducting business is more important than incentives. Fairness. So, and I'm sure that this is something that already in Vision 2030, it's a fundamental rule of 2030 to keep to appreciate the hard workers and to appreciate those who work and those who create change and value. So feeling of fairness is very, very important for entrepreneurs to come to a place versus other. Ease of business, as I mentioned, quality of life, as I mentioned, and of course, abundance of funding. And I'm talking about here, I'm not talking about funding only, funding and talents. So funding means that whenever I come and I have a seed idea, a pre-seed idea, I can find grants, I can find angels, I can find seed VCs. And whenever I want to hire people, I can find also reasonable amount of talents around me, or at least I can also attract someone from Europe or from Singapore to relocate to Saudi Arabia. If this is something that is there, then we can call ourselves hub. And I think that we are on track, but it's what we need some steps to be taken in a faster manner.
If I can add to Abu Ali, so I believe that, of course, having startups to be based and localized into Saudi, and the main part of it is to localize that value through what they're developing and scaling their businesses and creating new businesses. Definitely, what we think is that in the next couple of years, with all the government plans to enhance services, education, lifestyle, etc., it's all aligned with the ultimate, let's say, the ultimate vision of having a very competitive business environment. So we realize that demand is not enough. So we have a huge market, but demand is not competitive enough. So all of the other elements that different government entities are working on will align with what we're talking. And definitely, I think, and we believe this, and all of us have seen it, is that in every 3-6 months, huge change happens. So you can imagine just in the next 2 to 3 years, or 5 years, how things will shape and change. But I'm always accused that I'm very optimistic, which hopefully is a good thing. But definitely, I think that there will be a lot of benefits for companies that are localizing into Saudi. And the thing is that we want to connect with the other ecosystems. We're giving them the biggest opportunity of scaling, raising funds, being able to create jobs, etc. Then scaling outside Saudi into the region and hopefully globally, inshallah.
Thank you so much.
So just to maybe that discussion, and I think maybe as Abu Ali said and as Dr. Mazen said, so I think the let's say the marriage between local talent and international talent is really important for the growth of Saudi and the whole region. International companies don't really understand our culture very much, don't understand the behaviors of the local, mechanics of those internal, cultures, and that's normal. Wherever you go, you need locals to help you understand that part of your business to be able to penetrate such markets. So I think this is important. Startups around the world are not made of, the best startups are not made of single nationalities, are usually a marriage between multiple nationalities and multiple different experiences and backgrounds. And I think this is really important for us to be able to be later on, inshallah, the hub for the region. But definitely, bringing in, bigger startups or bigger companies from around the world who are able to set up in Saudi will have a huge impact, positive impact on the local, talent in Saudi. And we saw this in Careem, although it's a regional startup, but it had huge impact on the, the talent maturity, let's say, in Saudi specifically. Many of them went out of Careem and now they have their own startups that are very successful because they know now, they understand that part of the business. So definitely huge impact, and I think we're moving towards that direction, inshallah.
Thank you so much. So we have about 4 minutes before we jump into the Q&A session, which is we're allocating the last half hour of the session towards. So we have one question that may be of value to our listeners, and that is around what role do you see family groups and conglomerates playing in our ecosystem now and in the future? Abu Abdullah, if you can start us off, and then if we can hear from anyone. We have literally, like I said, 4 minutes, so if you want to keep it short, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Inshallah. That's usually difficult with me, but I'll try. Type. So again, I think in every ecosystem, definitely conglomerates and family businesses have a big share of the market today, controlling bigger investments and bigger and big amounts of the national GDP. The transformation we're seeing is huge, as I said, even before COVID, but COVID accelerated that change. And what I would love to see is more investments from the conglomerates or family offices and family businesses into startups, whether in terms of acquisitions or whether in terms of investment money, to tap into that technological transformation and to be able to cope up with the change, because there is huge change. And we've seen this change replicated in many other markets, whether in the US or others, where traditional businesses are being phased out and new technological based companies are taking their place. So we don't want to see that happen in the region. Definitely it will happen with many companies, but we want to see the family businesses and the family or the conglomerates continue to be main players in the region because of their current wealth and current capabilities, and want to see that even improved with the technology transfer that's happening.
Thank you, Abdullah. Abu Ali, anything to add?
Yeah. Just to second what Abdullah said. So changes are rapid. Value is shifting from the market. The value is now shifting toward technology, and investors understand this language very, very clearly. I think what conglomerates and family businesses need to do at this point is to unlearn a lot of things, to be ready to learn new things and new ways to do and conduct business, and to also be ready for the next wave of new businesses, and we can call them the new conglomerates in the market that will change a lot of equations that people used to see. I think what they should do is they should start experimenting, and as I told you, unlearning, to make sure that they have space for learning new things, and also adopting, acquiring, investing, and doing a lot of activities that they didn't used to do previously. Hopefully that one word to add here is to start discovering the value of acquisition. I think this is something that no one is talking about in the conglomerates and in the family business, but I think this is now time for us to think about it. To acquire value and to acquire change, we may need to acquire startups, and this is where I think new conglomerates.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, ladies, gentlemen, for taking time out of your busy schedules. I understand that you guys are extremely busy and taking the time to spend this time with us. Now, if you allow me, we want to open the floor for some questions. We've been receiving some questions in this chat section. I'm going to start addressing them by the order they were received, and then I will try to channel the question to the right party. I'm not really sure I can do that with every single question, but I will do my absolute best. So we have an anonymous attendee. Okay, very, very nice to start something in a mysterious way. Good. It says we are an Egyptian-based startup. What is the best way to pitch our startup to a Saudi VC? I can take the initial crack on this. So basically, for the benefit of you, every single fund that the fund of funds Jada has invested in is listed on our website. There is a link to the website of each one of these fund managers, and I'm almost certain that every fund manager has a contact us button that you can send them an email through. So that's at least my initial crack on answering this question. Anybody else want to take a crack at how do they get introduced or
Yeah, quick one. So in our website visionvc.co, you have there is a form where startups can fill and submit their information, and usually they will be contacted within 48 hours maximum. So that's an easy way to get to know you better, inshallah.
So there is a Saudi directory called the Jawla. So Jawla.com, I think you can find all of the resources for you to get into Saudi, all of them, to me, including VCs, including angels, including even governmental entities. I think that will be the best way to discover Saudi.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question is from Mohammed Al-Baz, and the question is, what are the best VCs in Saudi in terms of support, consultation, and value of investment? Now, I'm going to plead.
This is an awkward question, Mazen.
Yeah, very, very awkward question. I understand. I'm pleading the fifth, but
go to the market and make your research.
Yes, I totally believe so too. The Ustad Muhammad, I guess, yeah, I try to address your question to the best of our ability. Let us know if you have any further comments. There is an anonymous attendee asking a question around what are the challenges facing investors as well as entrepreneurs. A bit of a general question, but anybody wants to take a crack at answering that?
Well, again, probably very general, very big answer. However, there are, of course, many challenges. Investors want to see investable deals, want to see great founders that are able to crack at and face problems head on and not afraid of competition. So these are where I think the main issues we see. We want to see real big flow of deals that have value and have high quality of growth and high potential of growth. We don't want to see, at least for us, we see some that are focusing on very small markets. And I think that's, again, for us, at least for us, is a problem. We want to see them focus on huge markets that can be, that give them the potential to be huge companies as well. That's at least from investors' point of view. As entrepreneurs, being myself an entrepreneur previously, of course, again, there are many. So entrepreneurs, one of their biggest challenges is how do I make this business successful? And that goes into funding, into finding the right talent in the company, into choosing even the right sector that you work in and the right vertical that you work in, and focusing on your strengths. So just to sum it up, these are my points at least.
Thank you so much. I hope that answers the question. What are the coming, there is also Mohammed Al-Baz asking a question, what are the coming events that VCs and startups can meet to pitch their project? Anybody wants to take this one? If you're familiar with any sort of platform to guide.
As Abu Ali mentioned, Jawla, it's becoming the platform to news and events, etc., and awareness, all of that.
Yeah, I think that's true. And also, if the guy here is a founder for a startup, early stage startup, I think go to Saudi Venture Capital Company website, find the angel groups that the Saudi Venture Capital SVC already supported. I think each one of those groups has its own demo day and way of submitting and showcasing your website. So I think that is also very helpful to hear from those angels early on. What are the things that they are looking for? That will give your pitch to the next event.
Thank you, Wadi. Fahad Al-Malki is asking, how can we put forward programs and plans to encourage talented people to lodge on intellectual property, in parentheses, investment, and contain their ideas and develop them? And is what is presented enough or needs development? I hope anybody wants to take this one. If you want, I can read the question again because
I'll take the hint. Okay.
It's a little long, but if you want, I can
So
repeat it.
I think in general, there's a lot to be done yet. When it comes to intellectual property, if I understood the question, with the Saudi Intellectual Property Authority, they're taking very advanced steps, especially relating to technology, not only patents and trademarks, etc. That's one thing. If developing IP, as I think, or protecting IP, that would be another subject. But there's a lot of initiatives, a lot of work that's been happening. We still need to do more. That's what I believe.
Thank you, Dr. Mazen. Anonymous attendee again asks, what would you like to see more from venture capitalists? I can take a crack at that initially and then forward the mic over to my colleague Noura. So ultimately, from a VC, we would like to see a team with a good strategy. First, a good strategy that has the right team to execute on this strategy. With a track record, we understand that a lot of the track records are unrealized, and we will supplement the lack of actual exits with NAV calculations and so on and so forth to help us assess first-time managers or emerging managers. And that Saudi is at the core of that investment strategy, with a very healthy allocation to or healthy appetite towards Saudi-based startups. So that is something that would that gets us to be excited about a fund manager. Noura, anything else to add?
Yeah, Mazen. So as you mentioned, team is top of the criteria to look at any fund. Second is the investment thesis, of course, sectors, stages, and the allocation for Saudi, as you mentioned. And what we care about is the governance, the decision-making process, that they have the LPAC in place, they have the right advisory committee, the IC members, and the voting mechanism.
Thank you so much. I couldn't emphasize more the governance part. It's the way to show that your fund and you guys are actually doing things in a very disciplined manner, and in accordance to global practices. Wael Sabali, I'm sorry, Malesh, if I butchered your name. The question is, great discussion. My question is, benchmarking with advanced countries. What improvements should happen in the next in our VC/PE industry? I would throw this out to both Qais and Umar, as well as Dr. Mazen potentially can shed some light on that.
I know Umar has a lot more to say, so let me jump quickly before he talks.
How did you know that? I know that you also know. So I think if we see that, for example, 2015-16, we needed seed money, and now we, alhamdulillah, have plenty of seed money, and quality and everything is very, very good. We needed alhamdulillah Series A back in 2017, 18, and alhamdulillah now we have about 4 or 5 Series A investors who are actively looking at Saudi. In addition, of course, to the regional and global. We needed Series B. Alhamdulillah, we have about 2 now in Saudi, and maybe some more in the region and some more globally. I think this is something that is how this ecosystem has a natural evolution. What we need next is, of course, more growth money, Series C, Series D, more private equities, growth private equities, and this is where I think the gap, as Noura mentioned several times, the gap filling for the ecosystem may emerge, and the need may change from time to time. What we need also is easy access to talents, easy access to attracting talents, and to hire top talents in Saudi or abroad. I think that this is maybe one of the biggest challenges. But to make companies in Saudi Arabia and to make them within this ecosystem, I think we need to make the barriers to entry for top talents globally very low, to make sure that they can come easily and they can join companies easily. I think those are the major two things that I can think of.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say the point I wanted to mention is a couple of things. So it's an ecosystem that is developing, right? So we are, in terms of beginning investments in VCs or private equity, internationally, we were a bit slow in getting into that market in the beginning. So we did not invest as early as it was in the US. So at least I think they were like 30 years ahead of us in terms of private equity. In terms of VCs, I think like 25 at least years ahead of us. So this gap will not be closed in a month or two or a year or two. But alhamdulillah, we're accelerating that gap. We're filling that gap much faster than before. And I think this is important to just keep in mind. However, I think the steps and the achievements we've done so far are, mashallah, great. At least from our own experience, we've started to invest in 2016. Until today, the amount of advancement we've seen in the region and in Saudi Arabia is amazing, mashallah. We've never expected that to happen. And I think what's going to happen down the road is even much more amazing, inshallah.
Thank you so much. Next question is from an anonymous attendee. What is the best way to approach Jada for a fundraise for an app for a local Saudi business which has been operating for 3 years? Jada actually does not invest directly in companies. We actually invest through intermediaries by our partners and the fund managers that we partner with. So if anything, as I mentioned earlier, we do have them listed in our websites with links to their websites. So that could be a resource. Other than that, I just would allude to the same answer that we provided earlier on how to reach the best possible Saudi VCs through the various platforms that are available. Anonymous attendee, again, given that you invest in startup, you must have faced failures. How do you deal with that? And that is, I believe, for Qais and Abu Ali.
Let me jump. So it's not easy, definitely. Facing failures is not easy, but we also learn that the decisions you make are the result of the information you had at that time. It's very easy today to come back and say, why didn't you, or why did we pass on that deal, or why didn't we see this entrepreneur? It's very easy now to say that. However, given the facts that were back then, the discussion is a totally different discussion. Definitely, there are deals we've passed on that we wanted, if time goes back, we would love to have invested in. But that's the fact of life. You will never get all the successful things in life, and things will happen. Definitely, there are also startups and businesses that we thought were amazing and have failed. So at least in our portfolio, we have like one failed startup already. And that's the reality of our business as VCs. We invest because we invest early on, because it's a high risk kind of investment. Things will happen, and these risks are factored into our business and into our strategy as well. And we work around trying to mitigate those risks as much as we can. But definitely failures will happen. And I think through failures we learn also. So I think that's also very important.
That's absolutely, thank you for shedding light on that. At the end, I think in Silicon Valley there is always saying of like, what, show me your battle scars. Show me how many times have you actually fell and got up. And this is actually a sign of honor that a lot of entrepreneurs take, just putting a positive skin on, a positive twist on something that may be perceived as negative. We need to come to a level where we celebrate our failures as well as successes. Anything to add, Abu Ali?
No, I think yeah, and the same page with Qais. It's already factored. So failure is something that is natural in this asset class. Should be acceptable from the investor point of view. From the founder point of view, there are many things to talk about. But I'm talking about here from the investor point of view. Whenever we make a fund, we make the financial model. The financial model includes also the ratios of failure, the ratios of mediocre successes, and ratios of the outliers. And that should be in line with what is happening in the markets, in the more maturing markets, or more, let's say, similar markets globally, to make sure that we will not be shocked when we see one of the companies fail. So this is already factored. We are anticipating such thing, and we are trying our best to mitigate this from the beginning, from the decision-making process, and from the decision-making activity. Actually, whenever we face a failure in a company, we go back to our decision and we see, did we make a wrong decision or right decision, regardless of the failure or success, because not necessarily the right decision will lead you to success, but actually it will lead you to more probability of successes if you do it right. So, for example, if we target Series A and we went to invest in Series B, for example, or C, this is something not right from the decision making in the principle. So this is something that we need to rectify. We need to make sure that we have the right tools and the right way and criteria of decision making, and we need to make sure that we can refine it from time to time. And this is by seeing the probability of success, not by company. Probability of success at a portfolio level, not.
Thank you so much. Ustad Mohammed Al-Baz asks last question. It's okay, you can ask as many as you want, Ustad Mohammed. Which way is better, targeting a businessman, a businesswoman as an angel investor, or to go to a VC? Just my 2 cents on this is you would normally want to check the investor's appetite and relate it to what stage your company is in at that specific time. If you know somebody has currently investing in early stage startups that have not gotten the traction that or whatever stage that your company is in right now, then I believe it's a good investor to approach. I would go to a VC if they have some allocation towards the pre-seed side of the equation. So I would just consider the appetite of your investor before going and wasting your time and his time with a pitch that might not be of interest to either one of you. Anything else to add? Anybody on the group?
It's people thing, and you need to make sure that whenever you partner with someone, you can really meet with this guy or this girl more and more, and you have always constructive discussion and dialogue with your partners. Otherwise, make sure that you don't really approach. So I agree with Mazen that VCs may come with better tools and with better value add. But as long as you can find also a great person who can support you early on, I think that will be also invaluable.
Thank you, man. Anonymous attendee again. Okay. Oh wow, this is a touchy question. Do you think valuations in Saudi startups are exaggerated? Have you noticed any moderation due to the pandemic? I will leave this to the practitioners. Omar and Qais.
Let me jump quickly. So yes, definitely. See, I think there has been an abundance of, or let's not say abundance, let's say a tremendous increase in funding in Saudi and in the whole region as a result of many things, and we talked about some of them. So naturally, there will be competition on deals, and naturally there will be some appreciation in values, and probably what we could call exaggeration. I don't think we've reached a crazy stage yet. Comparing our region to other regions, we're still in very acceptable valuations. I think the pandemic have seen some startups hit negatively, but I don't think it was only because of the pandemic, but it was because of your own company's performance and because of how you react to the situation around you. So we've seen companies that were able to pull great investments during the pandemic with high valuations. So it all goes down to performance. How have you been performing as a company? How have you been reacting to different situations around you? So these are my 2 cents on the issue.
Abadi, anything else to add?
Yeah, I think this on the same page with Qais. No major observations. Maybe some decline within COVID area or time, but now I think things are getting to normal in terms of valuations. I don't see it exaggerated into this. I don't see a bubble, but hopefully that we can sustain this.
Okay, thank you so much. I've been hit with this question on multiple occasions, to be honest, and I believe there is a learning curve associated with what we're doing. The market, there is an unmistakable abundance or availability of growth capital is much better than it was 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, even if you compare it even as short as 2 years ago. But the learning curve will happen as follows. Entrepreneurs starting to understand that the higher the valuation he's getting early on, the bigger the hill that he has to climb to get to an up round in the next round. This is a realization that has come in a way, in a hard lesson to some founders and some investors, and those fund managers who are willing to take the risk with an exaggerated valuation will learn in a hard way that was not the right thing to do, and ultimately the market will correct itself within a very short period of time. And because these rounds only support founders to 12-18 months of runway, after which he's going to have to raise the next round, and the higher the valuation, the higher, like I said, the hill it is to climb. So a lot of these, exaggerated valuations that, or the perceived exaggerated valuations will prove themselves very shortly, whether, that startup deserved that valuation or not, by way of them raising an up round within the time allocated to them for the runway that round made available. So that's my 2 cents on the topic. Last question is, we have 4 more minutes. So what does the market need more from an entrepreneur or an investor? What does the market need more for entrepreneurs or investors? Okay, sorry, I misread your question. So do we need more entrepreneurs or do we need more investors? Anybody want to take the first shot at this?
The main driver is our entrepreneurs. Those are the North Star.
Thank you. Qais? Abu Abdullah?
Yeah, I fully agree. Definitely. There is always money for great companies and great founders. So they will not be stuck finding the investment they need to grow. The question is, how fast can we bring those entrepreneurs to maturity? How can we make them better? How can we make them think of the real problems that are out there? And I think the transformation is huge in the region. A lot more doors, at least in Saudi Arabia, are opening up as a result of Vision 2030. Many things have been popping up that were not thought of in the past or were impossible to really work in the past. And those are all opportunities that we would love to see more and more entrepreneurs take a crack on. So yeah, I think again, it's entrepreneurs are the start, and they are the ones needed more and more in the market.
Thank you so much. The last question, we have 2 minutes for it. What are available platforms for entrepreneurs to cultivate cross segments, build and increase collaboration between them, selves, I think it's a typo, when their costs both are lowered and go to market stronger and leaner? Just from the general sense that, you know, the available platform that the gentleman and the lady mentioned earlier, whether it is Jawla or whether it is Magnet, or I'm not sure if they will serve as a collaboration platform, but you'll find a lot of data on them, and potentially you can access some of the startups somehow, some way through them. I'm not really sure. I just took the best shot at trying to answer your question. If anybody has better thoughts to help guide our anonymous attendee, would be great. Anybody?
So maybe I think he's talking more about accelerators, incubators, and stuff like that help people to interact with each other and to grow their talent and information. And of course, there are many, at least in the region and in Saudi Arabia. So Inspire You. There are several accelerators that were done in the past. I think Noura maybe had some points she wanted to talk about. Noura, صح كان عندك شيء فتحت المايك بس أنا I took over.
Yeah, no, it was the same answer. So I would believe he can join any accelerator or incubator to get to know other entrepreneurs, maybe cross notes and so on. And you've alluded to some of those accelerator programs.
Well, it's time. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to spending these 2 hours with us. We will make a video of this recording available either on our website or in any of the platforms that we are using. Either it is LinkedIn or any of the social media platforms. Again, I reiterate my gratitude and thanks to all the participants, every attendee who attended, and all the good questions that were thrown. Once again, we couldn't do this by each one of us working in a silo. It is a team effort. We're all part of one fabric. And I look forward to continuing this journey with each one of you, either on the investor side or the entrepreneur side, or as an LP. Thank you so much, and we appreciate the time that you spent with us today.
Thank you so much, Mazen. Thank
you
so much,
Mazen.
everybody.
Thank you so much.